Welcome to Powering SMB, the premier podcast by XenTegra One.
We're here to turbocharge your journey through the realms of business strategies, emerging technologies, and the secret sauce of customer experience.
Stay tuned as we decode the complexities, celebrate the milestones, and equip you with the tools, inspiration, and cutting-edge insights to skyrocket your business dreams.
This is Powering SMB. Hi, good afternoon. This is Mark Vincent. Got Sean Washington here with me, and you're listening to wow, I forgot the name already. Hit me up,
Right.
Sean.
It's early in the morning, Mark.
It's Powering SMB.
Greetings, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I knew the first one out the gate wasn't going to be perfect, and I just really wanted to start on a high note, right?
Yeah, classic overthinking.
Yeah, you plan and you plan and you plan, and then it just turns out that things just go wrong. But hey, that's the nature of the game. Thank you for showing up and listening to this. Generally, the idea here is that we're going to be talking about solutions that help small business. Sean, you could probably give everybody a clue as to who we are and what we do. I think you do a better pitch on that than I do, frankly.
Yeah, so this is Sean and Mark. So we power XenTegra One, and XenTegra One is the division of XenTegra that specifically caters to the SMB market. So we've been working for many years, finding solutions for companies that are in the 100 to 300 employee range, companies that are generally not just dismissing IT, but for the most part have more rigorous requirements from a cybersecurity and process and operations perspective. And we go in and we help them either complement their team or be a full outsourced solution for them, or just kind of plug holes and figure out what's going on. And just like XenTegra as an organization, we are heavily focused on the end user compute space, bringing virtual desktops, virtual applications, and digital workspaces to our clients. So today what we're going to do is we're going to do a blog review with one of our partners, Parallels. So Parallels RAS specifically is a solution that does power virtual desktops. Mark and I have sold it and built it, and we love their implementation. It's priced well and is really effectively marketed for the SMB. So they have this nice little blog that they did a couple weeks ago called "Why Are DaaS Solutions on the Rise?" So I couldn't think of a better way to start than to specifically talk about why DaaS, as in desktop as a service, is being more highly coveted by the SMB space.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's a great topic, and I think it really speaks to what we do almost on a day-to-day. We literally spend, I'd say, 3/4 of our time within our organization delivering solutions just like this. So it's definitely in our wheelhouse and our bread and butter.
If people aren't familiar with what we do, is we do have our own data centers, and we do work within public cloud environments. So we've always been a cloud or hosted infrastructure focused organization. We do also do desktop support for clients like traditional endpoints, Macs and PCs. But we find, it's more efficient for our business to have everything run out of a data center or out of a cloud. And that's really exactly what this topic is covering here today. But yeah, it's exactly what we've been building for many years. This completely dictates our narrative. So that's why we're talking about it.
Yeah. The article basically goes into saying that most organizations in the next 2 years are looking to adopt some kind of desktop as a solution architecture in their environment. I think COVID pushed a lot of this to the forefront for a lot of folks, but I think that now that people have seen the value of removing a lot of complexity over remote access, and there are solutions that can do it rather well, that it starts to change the way that people think about how they want to do work in the future. So it's an exciting time, really.
Yeah, I agree. And this article doesn't exactly talk about COVID. I mean, it's surprising that that's already been almost 4 years ago.
Yeah.
But people say that COVID and forcing people to work from home was the largest catalyst for any sort of digital transformation within an organization that ever happened. So pretty much overnight, people had to reconsider how they can securely deliver their workspaces or their, daily operations from people working from home exclusively. So yeah, this is going to talk about it. I'll be honest, some of the stats that they are reporting here are quite eye-opening to me. Not sure if you share the same sentiment, Mark, but when we talk to clients in the SMB space, I think they love the idea of running virtual desktops or running everything out of a cloud, but at the same time, it's highly alien to them.
Yeah,
So
it's a different way of thinking altogether. And I think it's something that, like I said, if it weren't for COVID, I don't think people would be rushing to all of this as much as they have. But now that the cat is out of the bag, I think that the people are really looking at this as, hey, this is something that gives my employees a little bit better quality of life in a lot of cases. It simplifies compliance in a lot of industry. So being able to basically take your data, place it in a safe environment that can't be accessed but securely, and it brings the idea of bringing in your own devices, especially to the equation, which is something that traditionally probably would have been frowned upon by an IT staff, right? Being able to actually allow people to have a BYOD type of scenario. And I think what really the article kind of summarizes, and we'll put the link, I'm assuming, somewhere in the podcast, but
this is Parallel's blog on the RAS, the remote access server, DAS on the rise.
yeah, if you're looking it up,
It's on their website in the blog section underneath RAS.
Yeah, the author Jacqueline Zen, she does a lot of really good articles on their site and their blog. There was a lot. Go ahead, Sean. Sorry.
See, I was going to say, even before we jump into it and look at the numbers, I'd like to kind of share the perspective of what we see, because we work with companies that are highly funded startups, and we might get them in their first to third year of existence. So companies that really haven't defined their business operations and workflows the same way that a mature company would, right? So what happens is they go out, they get their money, they get their seed money, they go out, they get an office, they hire the right people, then they start buying computers and they start putting things up there. But that's about as far as their planning goes, right? And then they figure out the applications that they need to run it. Like we work with a lot of software companies and a lot of biotech and finance companies, and they'll have their tools, the applications that run their business that they know, because they are generally coming over from other organizations and carrying that knowledge with them. But they're not hiring an IT guy on day one. They're generally partnering with organizations like us, and they need to guide to go that direction. But no one is starting a business and saying, well, we should just implement VDI from day one. Because if they did, they would be checking a lot of boxes. But, as we've seen from our experience, it's a lot more than that. There's a lot of thinking. There's a lot of moving parts. And there's a decent amount of investment and even just to get it started, right? And then if you have a bunch of operations that are in existence, changing it could be disruptive to your day-to-day, right? So those are kind of the struggles we deal with in guiding our clients into making the right decisions to power their business. But VDI for sure checks a lot of boxes, especially if you're doing the hybrid work from home type of environment.
Yeah, we see more and more customers too that are looking to expand their operations globally, and it becomes the whole compliance issue too. How do I give a user access to data in a remote setting that I don't necessarily have control of the environment that they're standing in? How can I do that securely? These solutions provide that kind of layer that allow them to have, to a certain degree, like a one-way mirror into the data. They can edit it, they can work on it, but they can't exfiltrate any of that data back out, which is really the saving grace for a lot of folks. We're seeing this internationally a lot. Or
yeah, exactly.
moving, I think something that a lot of folks don't think about, but is interesting too, is the fact that a lot of these delivery mechanisms are keeping the desktop itself away to a certain degree as well. So you've got some folks that will log into a full-blown desktop experience, and you have some folks that are using these tools now to literally just give them 4 or 5 applications on their screen that are securely brought to them and delivered without any kind of desktop environment at all, which is pretty awesome too.
Yeah, and that's big in kind of a contact center area where people are basically on the phone, operating a phone and a CRM, and talking to people all day. That's all they need.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of times it's for a lot of knowledge workers to do their job. There's not a whole lot of tools needed, right? It's a half a dozen applications that they run to basically manipulate whatever they're working on. It's pretty cool. You want to dive into this?
Yeah, I was going to say, I was literally about to just kind of take it up from the first part, the growing popularity of desktop as a service. So with the recent study, they found that 78% of the respondents that they spoke to are planning to implement at least one desktop as a service solution by 2025. And 37% have already done so and plan to continue using in the future.
Yep.
So
I think those numbers are kind of sneaky a little bit. I think the reason why 37% have already done so is because they were forced. But that is the catalyst for change in itself, right? So I think that's a good thing. I think they've taken a taste of it. They've had to work with it because they were essentially forced to. And now they're seeing the benefit and trying to figure out how to properly roll it out and maybe in a more controlled manner than we all had to go through like 2 years ago.
Yeah. And we're also talking that, they're going to implement at least one DAS solution. So maybe what they're saying here is they're not specifically going to standardize it across the board for the entire organization, but maybe it fulfills one specific need, like a remote user. Like we have clients that are international and bring your own device type of environment where we don't want to work it on that device. So we create like we call it the walled garden, and access it remotely, and that way we can manage it effectively. But that's just a subset of a division within an organization.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Another thing that's interesting about this is they are talking specifically about desktop as a service, which means they are not building it in-house. So I think it might be a smart move for us to kind of define specifically what desktop as a service is. In my opinion, Mark, you may want to, tag onto this or offer your opinion on it after me. But desktop as a service, for the most part, is somebody, whether it being a service provider like us or a Microsoft, creating an infrastructure that's scalable and has most of the bells and whistles to deliver hosted infrastructure to their end users as a service. So the client doesn't need to worry about patching operating systems or running a data center or doing anything like that. They just pay X amount per month and it just works. And you get a support contract, et cetera. You call them up and you say, hey, reset my profile, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the way I look at it. I think I look at it maybe one step differently in that respect. And the way I see computing in general, right, in the future is that you traditionally have had a desktop. You've had a machine that you log into and you do your work. The idea of taking that, turning it into a container, as it were, putting it in a secure place and allowing you to do your work as if that machine were sitting on your local desk is the first step of it. That's the initial DAS, right? Desktop as a service. But what I think is more interesting to me and probably in my mind, the future, right, is this weird hybrid where you've got SaaS apps, you've got traditional desktops, and you have maybe purpose-built applications that need to be ran on a server or something that somehow interacts with your environment. It's bridging all of these together in a seamless environment that allow you to access all this data in a secure way from a central location, right? I think that's truly digital transformation. Being able to have access to everything.
Doesn't sound like that would be something that you can take right out of the box, does it?
It can, and the funny thing is you can build it in sections. You're talking about departments, right? If I were a company and I was starting to look at this, as a strategic moving forward on how I could do this digital transformation journey with my company, I would break down these things by departments, looking at groups of people that have a similar tasks that they do every day. How can we make that task easier on them? How can we take that data and secure it in a way that keeps it better for the company, but also gives the employee an easier way of getting access to it? I think definitely desktops in the traditional sense, right? If I'm taking my computer and I'm moving it to the cloud, the advantages that you can get by doing that are huge, right? The patching, the maintenance, the security. There's a million things that just work better. But I think that what is interesting to me is that there'll be groups of people that will have those types of setups that will work great. And then you'll find departments that have some kind of a special niche need that you'll need to rethink about how to deliver that. And that's where I think, a lot of people get tripped up on. And it's good to bring in a consultant maybe that has a little bit more experience in looking at those type of environments and learning how to deal with that.
Yeah. And you made me think about this. VDI is a term that I think scares people away.
Oh, yeah.
The
for sure.
industry doesn't really like to use that word because they start, I used to work for a company 10 years ago and they had Citrix and it was slow on my computer, right? And no one really is thinking about the implications of everything that went into delivering that application, whatever they may have been using it for. But what almost all these vendors are doing right now is marketing a digital workspace more so than a VDI environment. So VDI could be a component of that digital workspace, but really what that is a way of managing identity and bringing your work everywhere you go.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. That is really the end game here, right? It's not just taking the desktop and pushing it up in the cloud. It's creating a portal for that end user to log into that allows them access to everything that their job entails and they need in a very easy manner. And a lot of that will be done through virtualization of the desktop or application, or a secure way to access a SaaS app that's needed for their job function as well, right? Tying all of that together in a central location.
And everyone's kind of defined as a specific department, and they get very specific workflows and specific applications and access to everything, to applications, to files, to whatever they have access to. But the idea is the company running it, whether it's in-house or out of house, has full control.
Correct. And I think that's, if you look at the growing popularity of desktop as a service, in this blog that we're looking at, I think that the core thing that I get out of this is that it's not just desktop. I think that when people say desktop, I think what they're meaning is it's a longer journey. They're looking at taking their business and finding a way of migrating that into a more controllable environment that's easier to access. It's the whole work has no boundaries, which was pretty funny because it's the first thing that they mentioned in there.
Yeah.
It says, what's more, DaaS solutions allow end users without boundaries. They work from anywhere policies. It's XenTegra. That's been a big marketing effort on our part. Is we actually own the website workhasnoboundaries.com. Last year we did a promotion where we gave away like 2 Ford Broncos, sort of help promote that idea of you can work anywhere, right? Whip out your laptop. You just drove your Bronco off the side of a cliff and you're out in the middle of nowhere. And
might as well get some work done.
You can still check your Outlook and get your TPS reports done. Awesome. That's the way the world should be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But coming back to this, see about 21% of people have absolutely no business or even any thoughts of doing this. I'd have to probably think that, they either are very informed or completely uninformed to not even want to entertain it. And I think as we go further down into exploring this blog and some of the stats that they have provided, we'll kind of see, it isn't that easy to, especially if you want to try to do this yourself. Like say if you're one IT guy, and you have all these daily responsibilities, people blowing up your phone to, help them with their computer, et cetera, et cetera. How are you going to have time to figure out how to build something like this? or to talk to the right vendor who can help customize a specific deliverable for your organization. It's probably the last thing they're really thinking about. But yeah, maybe we should take a closer look to see how these things are all broken down.
Yeah, I like that. So they're saying here, global IT professionals consider adopting DaaS the next 2 years by company size. So okay, so now they're breaking it down by size of organization. Surprisingly, though, if you look at this graph, right, small, medium, and large companies as a whole, they're about what, maybe a little over a third of them are all looking at this together.
Yeah, because you want to look at yes and already combined. And it's strange because it seems to be extremely prevalent in the mid-sized companies, where the small and large are actually very similar.
It's funny that I noticed the same thing. The graph for small and large almost look exact. The medium size is adopting it more, and I think for me that makes sense. The reason being, small companies sometimes have trouble pivoting just for budget, other things, right? They're small, right? You're having a hard time moving. Large companies, complete opposite, and we see this all the time. You get a large organization. We've got a couple clients that are in the Fortune 100 and love them to death, great clients, but they're slow to pivot, and they are the dinosaur, right? Nothing happens without 12 committees and 6 months worth of planning. It's just how a big company runs. Mid-sized company, I feel like you're a little bit more able to pivot faster, and you probably are well capitalized at that point.
So a large company in here is defined as 2,000 plus employees. So to break down the stats for those that are listening, it's 36% say yes, 30 yes they want to take a look at it, 36 say they've already implemented, and 28 straight no. But could you imagine? I mean, you go to a company that has, let's say, 5,000 employees. Everyone works on one thing one way, and then you're going to somehow go through every single manager and every single division within that organization with its own, just cultures and way they do things, and then just be like, all right, you're going to come in on Monday, and it's going to be like this going forward.
Yeah, that's just never going to work in a large organization. It's crazy. My first real job was working for a pharmaceutical company that had thousands of employees. And I worked in the IT department, and we would roll out different software changes to various departments around the organization. And literally, you would have a meeting to start even talking about something as how to deal with the culture of the people that you're about to interface with, right? Got 300 people on this floor that aren't going to want to talk to you. The idea of changing their application or doing anything else is going to be terrifying to them. I think with a large business, there's a lot of that going on. You have to really get into the mindset of the group, because changes are huge. They make a big difference in someone's day. I don't know how much more to speak. We can speak on that. I mean, I think.
Well, it's a similar conversation as to cloud, right? Every person that does their job is going to have a different need, but is the cloud necessarily going to be the answer for all of them? Right? Like, I just kind of pose this because I think it's, the way people have looked at it for the last 10 years since cloud, has really kind of dominated the scene. A lot of people think that it is a destination and not necessarily just like a tool to empower their employees, right? Or a convenience. But, we have to get there. Same thing goes with VDI, or, digital workspaces. There's no right way. There's best practices in IT, right? But there's no right way and one silver bullet that's going to, make exactly what you're doing perfect, right? So it's just like a blanket statement.
And if not to complicate things any further, but the way people work in the future is going to change dramatically as well, right?
Yeah.
And these kinds of solutions lend themselves to allow you to have that flexibility, right? Just to give you an example, right? I mean, most of us 10, 15 years ago had a mail server in our organization, right? We had a dedicated Microsoft Exchange server. And that's where we kept all of our mail and all of our documents. And we were comfortable with that idea. And then Office 365 comes along, took years and years and years, but how many people actually own Exchange server in their building? Not too many,
I'm always surprised if we come across them.
Yeah, me too. It's like it's like
You
seeing
still really?
Bigfoot or something, right? You just,
Yeah.
wow, I didn't even know those existed anymore. That's kind of cool, ancient. But I think that is the same kind of concept here, is that as things progress, the idea of I can put my application up somewhere, or it doesn't have to be even tied to a desktop. The reason I love Parallels is that they are able to do that. I mean, you can have a desktop. Traditional desktop looks just like your normal Windows machine you log into. But if you don't need all of that, and you're a guy who wants 2 or 3 apps to run locally on your local bring your own machine, right? You could do that. And they look almost like it's all in the same pane of glass, but yet one is being delivered from a data center somewhere, and the other is coming from your local machine. And the two can work harmoniously together. It's awesome.
You had a really good analogy about Microsoft, kind of displacing their own on-premise technology with their own hosted technology. And
Yep.
they're clearly going in that direction with Azure Virtual Desktop or Azure Workspace. Um,
I think everybody's going there. I think that for the longest time, our motto used to be, we take the core, that we let you focus on the core while we deal with the chore, right? Like we deal with stuff that people don't want to deal with, right? Servers, complicated stuff, right? We deal all of that. We put it in a data center, we manage it for you, and that works great. I think that people are comfortable with that idea. It's taken years to get there, but we've been very successful having data centers and doing that. I think the next evolution of this is the desktop, being able to take that away from people and not have to deal with it, right? All the crap that you deal with in a normal desktop environment goes away in these scenarios, or at least it's dramatically simplified. So just from a cost saving standpoint too, I think that is something people are looking at.
well, yeah, and we've even seen in the consumer space, and I know it's evolving, but like Apple, for instance, I mean, you get a new machine, you don't need to reset anything up. It's all done.
Nope, nope, you don't have to do any of that. And with Microsoft and AVD becoming a real factor for them too, and if you guys don't know what AVD is, it's basically Microsoft's take on desktop as a service. They provide desktops, Windows 10 machines, Windows 11 machines in Azure, and you can basically use them like a desktop. And there are tools like Parallels here that can help you manage that environment to make it easy to spin them up when you need them. I think that Microsoft is pushing that, and you're going to see that with Windows 11 later this year. Has a feature that'll be coming out called Boot to Cloud. So just like they did with Microsoft Exchange Server, pushing mail traffic and all the mail underpinnings, right, going up into a cloud in an environment, you're going to see that same thing with the desktop. And it'll become so much more commonplace when you can buy a retail machine at Best Buy that, 3/4 of the time might actually not be running locally, but it's running in the cloud. And that helps people understand that concept a little bit more.
Yeah, and Microsoft is clearly focused on building their revenues around hosted services, infrastructure, applications, software, etc. They're not so big on selling devices to consumers or to businesses. That's really not their bread and butter there. They
No,
want that
it's a win-win for
ongoing.
everybody when you think about it, right? I mean, I'm old. I can say that with the utmost certainty. I am old. I've been around in this business for quite a long time. When I first started data centers, virtualization was not a thing, right?
Yeah,
Every single customer, every single application or server was a physical device, gigantic room full of physical devices. Virtualization kind of helped a lot of guys like me be able to expand and grow way beyond we ever thought would be possible, because we're able to take 100,000 square feet worth of what would have been physical machines and put it into a much smaller space. I think that the beauty of the cloud and DaaS and a lot of these sort of application as a service are doing the same exact thing. We keep going down another layer of granularity of being able to make the delivery of this stuff easier and more accessible to folks. And it literally lets them focus on the business versus having to deal with the technology of allowing that to happen.
yep.
Well,
And
that
at
was
the
a long
same
one.
time, the transition in the hardware side, the end user hardware is just going to commoditize to basic parts and, facilitate the brokerage of these services.
Exactly. Exactly. It's truly usage based and commodity at that point.
Exactly.
And I think that's the benefits. I mean, if I've kind of honestly paraphrased half of this blog at the end here. That's essentially what they're saying is the benefits as well. I
Hey,
totally
don't blow the
agree.
end.
But I mean, I
You know,
totally agree with what they're saying.
on this subject,
Yeah.
I think a good parallel is to talk about streaming cable services, right? So those of us that have been around long enough, and it's not that long, remember when Netflix was a company that would mail you out DVDs, right?
Yep. I
And then they
remember that well.
slowly transitioned to becoming a streaming provider of movies. And they started building their own content and blah, blah, blah. You fast forward and pretty much overnight, everybody's using digital streaming. And at the end of the day, it's just a little box or an app that lives on your smart TV that's facilitating that. And I mean, you think about it, like you could buy an 85-inch TV right now for, historically fairly decent prices. So I mean, under $2,000. If you did that several years ago, I mean, that machine probably would have been $100,000. I mean, when they first come out and they're big, they're unbelievably expensive. But the scale and the rate that they've commoditized those to facilitate the streaming services has just, of course, it's an evolution of technology also, but it's just the nature of the way things change. And I do think that probably will happen within the business to a larger degree than it has in the past, just because we have the ability to do it. We all have the connectivity to do it. And then also things like compliance and cybersecurity and all that kind of stuff really kind of dictate having these types of controls, especially if you're going to have a hybrid work from home type of environment.
Yep. Agreed. Totally agree. And I think that the way people work and the way things are changing, bandwidth is becoming relatively cheap and inexpensive, which is a catalyst for a lot of this stuff to happen.
What's your bandwidth at your house there?
I
Your
have
home
a gig.
office?
I have a gig and I probably pay $50 a month for it. It's nothing.
Yeah, same
I
here.
live in Las Vegas Metro, just for people that are curious. But yeah, yeah. I mean, in Vegas here, we're extremely well connected. Everybody has fiber in their house for the most part, and it's ridiculously inexpensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the technology is changing too. I mean, definitely not a topic for today, but I think that even the next evolution of DaaS and service delivery is going to be something that is going to be mind-blowing, right? Things like virtual reality and spatial computing and, applications that are aware of your surroundings and are able to pivot based on you just being in the room, right?
Like a
That's
real
the
digital
future of work.
workspace.
Yeah, that's the future of work. Whether we all want to admit it or not, I mean, it's definitely there. You talk about like a TV that was $2,000, right? And now they're cheap. You can get a 85-inch TV at Walmart for probably like $300, right? I mean, it's nuts, right? I bought a headset from Meta the other day, Quest 3. It's $500. I can sit in what appears to be, when I put that thing on, a stadium-sized display. And I could have 3 or 4 of them, and I could literally do my work on 200-inch screens virtually, and it's
Get a little pivot chair and spin around.
pretty thrilling. I mean, it's an amazing time to live.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of stuff becomes more and more, and these kinds of programs from these vendors are what allows real work to be done.
Yeah. And, from our perspective too, someone who's delivering desktop as a service, we've also seen the commoditization of server infrastructure with much faster processing, and the requirements for RAM and the types of storage that you can get on board have all gone significantly lower. Same thing with cloud services too. These types of things are going to enable people to take what used to be a very expensive infrastructure build and deliver it at a rate that basically the industry can accept.
Yeah, and that's essentially the gist of this blog as well. How DaaS bridges that skills gap, right? It allows you to do more complex thing with basically a lower IT budget, by just changing the way that you deliver the service.
Yeah. So we're on this little graphic right now. IT professionals are most interested in these benefits when adopting a DaaS solution. So they all range basically between 35 to 20%, some being higher and higher. So we'll kind of break them down, but it's scalability, flexibility, cost savings, simplified management, enhanced security, simplified IT infrastructure, rapid deployment, increased productivity, improved data access and collaboration, business continuity, disaster recovery, enablement of remote work, and ease of talent search. So we can kind of get into all of these, but I mean, the ones that are high on here is increased productivity, simplified IT infrastructure at 51%, enhanced security at 40, flexibility 46, scalability 35. All these things are basically all the benefits of why you would use something like a digital workspace or a virtual environment to do your workflows. And I couldn't agree anymore on all these, except maybe these numbers aren't high enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think I with you, especially some of those, like ease of talent search was only 19%. If you're an IT professional and you're trying to find talent in your local market, it's hard sometimes because the job market's really hot. It's hard to find the right guy with the right skills. If you could bring someone in anywhere from anywhere and have them help you work and do it in a way that's secure, to me, that is a super, super helpful thing.
Where are you going to lure someone away that has experience building out virtual desktop infrastructure from someone who's already done it, who works for a large company that has a big budget? But I mean, luring them away from there was someone who's probably very valued at their current, employer. How do you get them out there? You're gonna have to pay top dollar.
Well, that, or you can spin it this way too. Hey, you can work from home. Maybe the other company doesn't do that. I don't know. I mean, I think that there is some advantages there. I mean, I know a lot of consultants here at XenTegra that are all over the place. We've got talent all over the US. And
Let's not get away from the point though, is it's going to be expensive. It's going to be expensive to bring them on. And a lot of these smaller companies that we deal with, they're not really looking to invest into a person of that skill set.
No, I think you're missing the point. Okay, good. I think I see where we're going here. Yeah, I okay. Now I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
I'm looking at it from a different perspective, right?
exactly. Yeah.
When I think of that talent search, I'm not thinking about IT. I'm an IT company. If you have an IT problem, here's my spiel real quick. Here's my sales pitch. Call XenTegra one. you want to help figure this stuff out? Call somebody that knows what they're doing and let us help you, right? That's step one. But as far as talent search, I'm talking about talent for your actual job, right? We do a ton in the biotech space. We have a ton of customers in San Diego. Our company was originally founded in San Diego 100 years ago. So we've got a lot of deep ties and roots there. We get biotech customers all the time. They're looking for, PhD molecular scientist type of folks all around the world. If we can deliver a solution that allows someone to actively be part of a company and they're not even in the same country half the time, that's the value. I think that's really what they're getting at with this graph. It's ease of talent search within their own organization's need, right?
Good point.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's hard because we are IT folks and we're constantly thinking about IT, but thank God our customers don't necessarily think that way, right? They're really concerned about their own business and their own needs. And I think that's what this graph is really speaking to that way.
Absolutely. I want to point out a couple other ones. I think maybe each one of these might be worthwhile having some commentary, at least the ones that are at the higher percentages. So
Sure.
simplified IT infrastructure.
It's no brainer. It's no brainer.
Like we know in our business, what would you rather be managing? Servers or end users?
Servers. Not that I don't love end users. Don't get me wrong. End users are wonderful, wonderful people. But if you're an IT manager and you're probably the kind of guy that would be listening to a podcast like this, right? You understand where I'm going, and I don't have to explain myself. Servers don't talk back. Servers are easy. Servers do what you want.
Yeah.
End users are difficult. So anything you can do to simplify end user issues, the better off your life will be. Simply said.
And
Yeah.
even though we're a small business, we're heavily invested into engineering because of the nature of our business, but we still manage at least 1,000 endpoints, that have a person working on there and have to deal with their,
Yeah.
personalities and expectations and all that kind of stuff. And that is a inefficient way to do IT. So if you had people on virtual desktops, the efficiency goes, and the complexity, well, maybe the complexity to build it and manage it, you have to know what you're doing, but just being able
It's
to.
tremendously easier because then you can
Sure.
literally build a image, right? And like Parallels just came out with a version 19.3. Their big claim to fame on this version is image creation and image tools, being able to take and create a master image for, let's say, a department, the finance department. They're going to get Sage, they're going to get OS, they're going to get some payroll software, they're going to get 3 or 4 core apps for their business plus the base OS, and they're going to be able to log into it securely. There might be 25 people in that department, but they're all using one image. So when I have to make a change, I can make a change to one image, test it. Once it looks good, I can push that out to the entire department without ever having to physically or touch anything for those end users. That is nirvana right there. It doesn't get any better.
Yeah.
I
And
think that's really
a business in theory would love that value because that
absolutely.
caters right to, increased productivity,
Yeah,
42%.
again, so go to work on your core while we deal with the chore, right? And if
Yeah.
we can make the chore of that even easier by providing tools like this, it simplifies everybody's lives. Everybody's happier.
Yeah. Yeah. Think about the clients we deal with where they might have an old PC and, they're complaining about it being slow, but, the company doesn't have something, they need to order it. All these rigmaroles that go with end of lifing legacy technology.
Yep. Yeah. What about Salesforce scenarios? We have a lot of customers that have remote Salesforce type folks, right? People in
Yep.
the field. If they are employing a DaaS solution like this, the laptop that they're carrying around really isn't anything more than just a portal into an environment somewhere else. So if, poor Joe is in a cab in New York and he leaves his laptop in the cab and it goes away, what are our implications here? Did we lose, we have a security problem? Well, maybe not so much if it's done right? The machine is, again, just a vehicle to get you up into your actual data. The data doesn't live on that machine. So that's not so much of an issue. And if it's done right, like Parallels here has an amazing HTML5 browser-based conduit that allow you to get to your data. So if that scenario were to happen and that person still needs to do some work, all he's got to do is find a browser somewhere. He can securely from that browser get right back to work as if he was, on that laptop. That
Say he's on a business trip.
Yeah.
Does leave it in a taxi. That's, the administrators can take care of the security risk on that, but he still has work to do that day. He could just go into the hotel lobby, pull up any of their guest machines, find a web browser and launch it.
Yep. That's the beauty. And that's the way it should be. Like you were saying, you made the Apple analogy earlier. Same kind of concept. If your phone died tomorrow and you happen to be a lucky Apple user, yes, I said lucky because I like Apple products. Shoot me. My phone dies. It's no big deal. I can go down and grab another phone and all my data is in the cloud. Within a couple of minutes of getting that new phone, everything I need to do my job is right back to where it was. I didn't lose anything. The VDI provides that exact kind of experience.
Another subset of this study here that I think is worth getting into is enhanced security at 39%. So when I think about someone who's working from home in a traditional PC environment, if you really want to protect that environment, you should have, all the endpoint management, antivirus, and some sort of identity management with MFA. So whether it's Okta or Azure or something like that, they're going to have their own workspace that they need to authenticate to get into, and then have some sort of zero trust wrapped around that to make sure they're on the company network. But a VDI can have all that basically included as a turnkey solution by running it out of the data center. Now, I
Yeah.
don't think most companies have all those checks and measures in place. Highly regulated industries like finance, for example, probably do, but your average startup clearly is not.
No, in a lot of ways, that's the easy button for them to kind of get that jump ahead to. If they
Right.
were to start the foundation that way, when the auditor comes a knocking, it makes that process a heck of a lot easier. So if I were a startup or someone considering starting a new business, I would certainly look at these kinds of solutions on day one, as ultimately it's going to save you a lot of money.
We just got to get there and have that conversation before they do anything, huh?
Yeah, that's why they contact us. Sean.Washington at XenTegra.com.
Yeah.
I had to throw that out there. I know we're getting close to the hour, and we're definitely been talking and talking. I guess I'd like to just maybe try to wrap up and say that we're here to help with people that need to be looking at these types of solutions. I think we can add a lot of value to that. If you have interest in that, please reach out. We're going to be doing an ongoing series here on this podcast of various technologies to help small business. But if there's something that you would like us to see or talk about, please feel free to reach out, and we would love to entertain, anything that way.
Yeah. If I could piggyback on that, I would say that these are big picture conversations. We're not going to focus on one little thing. We want to really kind of understand the business and see how, a change like this can align with what you're doing. So yeah, it all starts with a conversation. We're problem solvers. And that's what we've been doing for many, many years.
Yep. And not only that, it's something we like to do. As weird as that may seem, I get some crazy enjoyment out of this whole thing. So yeah, I think we've pretty much covered this, and I look forward to having more conversations in the future.
Excellent. Thank
All
you,
right.
everybody, for your attention. We appreciate it.
Yep. I hope everybody has a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.